more from
Every time.
and he's got me laughing.
Well, tell him what you said you were going to do before we started.
I was going to introduce Dan, and every day he thought that was funny. So anyway, this is Dan, my other half.
No, you said you were going to introduce me and say, it's all yours, and just sit there and be quiet. And then, boom, the producer
Do you have any record of that, please?
Actually, we do. Hey, well, let's say welcome to everyone. Boy, I don't know what we're going to cover this week. There's not much out there.
There's not much time left in this day to figure out what has to be covered.
It's been a slow news week.
It's been a slow news minute.
Second, probably, at this point.
Anyway, we're going to start out with the House of Representatives, my favorite place to start this week.
Yeah,
and
you praised them last week.
I have been somewhat giving them the benefit of the doubt where possible.
Oh, that's an understatement.
But I have to start out by saying now that Jordan's dropped one from 202 to 194 votes this morning. They're further from getting the solution than they've ever been. And there's 25 of them. They're feckless. They're useless. As far as I'm concerned, the Republican Party has now become a regional and a state party. It no longer exists at the federal level because they're useless at that level. And that takes a lot for me to say that. You're not saying anything.
I'm stunned, speechless, Bill.
Truth
you
is
actually
truth.
Criticized a Republican. I think
they've earned it. They earned it. This is like bonus awards. This is like a Medal of Honor for these idiots.
Tell us how you really feel.
You know, they're actually proving the point is that they make a great minority party, but they couldn't run themselves to the bathroom successfully if being in charge. So I've got no use for them right now. There's absolutely nothing they're going to do to make up on it. And as a matter of fact, the more they screw around, the more they put 2024 in jeopardy at the national level, which is a damn shame. Because if we get lucky and we win the presidency we like, they're going to end up with a Democratic Congress and doing nothing. Or they might even swing the Senate. They're going to end up with a Democratic House of Representatives. Because even Nancy Pelosi's announced now that she's running again for re-election. So she wasn't running and she's 82 years old, but she sees a gap you could drive a large truck through that they might win on?
Continue. I'm not saying a word.
And the big eight that started this mess.
That you called traitors.
And traitors is not a good word for them.
Anymore.
There are not words that I can actually use on this show that will stay out there, but they're a little bit lower than a piece of dog crap on the basement. I can't think of anything worse than that. They go underneath the dog crap. They're lower than that. But these people have actually come out and said now, you know, their goal was to get rid of McCarthy. They got rid of McCarthy. They're not supporting anybody else. They're voting for different people just so they can vote for different people because they don't want to do, I know what they really want. They want to take over. And the chances of that happening are about the same as him and I becoming thin in the morning. So that ain't happening. So let's start there. Now, what they've now said is, they don't care if they get fired from their department, if they lose their positions in all their committees, if they get censured, they get thrown out of the party. Well, you know what? That might be a good thing for everybody. Why don't you just resign and let them put somebody in there that might do the job? Anyway, you want to jump in on this?
No, I don't. I'm just... So, you're kind of sounding like someone I know for the last 4 months.
Oh, look, I've been halfway there. I've been just kind of riding them fence.
No, you haven't. You have not ridden the fence.
Certainly I did. It's just a wide fence top.
You have lauded them and put them on a pedestal.
I've given them benefits of the doubt when they deserved it.
Or if you want to put it that way, yes.
But they don't deserve it now.
No, they don't.
You know, message to the House of Representatives, the Republican Party, especially the 25. In case you haven't noticed it, there's a war in Israel. Hamas is doing everything and everything. Iran is threatening us. Our ships in Taiwan are shooting down missiles that may be coming in their area.
That was a scary thing.
The Ukraine is not getting any better. You have riots going on in this country, and you're worried about power for the 8 of you or the 25 of you?
Get
Go
the AED
home.
ready. I think we're going to need it.
Go home. You're a bunch of feckless, useless idiots, and that takes a lot for me to say that. But I had to express my feelings.
You're going to become a libertarian now?
No, I'm going to work to change that. I already told you, as far as I'm concerned, the party has now become a regional and state party. The national party doesn't really exist, and they shouldn't because they're not doing their job.
You notice I'm not disagreeing. I've been telling you that for how many months now, my friend?
You've been hinting it.
Not hinting it. I've been blatantly stating it.
Blatantly
national
hinting
level. I like that you're making that differentiation.
Well,
national level.
At the state levels across the board, they're doing the right thing.
I think
you
look at any, let's call them red state.
Yeah.
in general, and I would say the large majority of them are doing a very fine job, I think.
And when you speak on that, bring in a little bit of side note, but kudos to Sarah Huckabee.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead, tell them.
She did two things
I
this
love
week.
I love that.
You know, that she had that worked with
The
her
one
Republican
especially.
counterparts in the legislature. Thing number one, they have passed a law that basically says if you're Chinese, you know, you're from China, you have to sell off any property
I love that one.
that you own in Arkansas. Gone.
That was golf clap for her on that one.
And the second one is they passed another one that takes out all this pronoun problems in government at the state level.
That's good, but I like the first one.
Well, the
better.
first one was the bigger
The
one. But
first
it
one
was
is
nice
just-
that Huckabee's doing that job, and that's just an example of state governments under Republican control doing the right thing. And you get the local governments at the county and the local levels, for the most part, with the exception of maybe Leland, they're doing the right thing.
Holy
We'll get
man.
there. That's another whole show. But at the national level,
Call him Butter. He's on a roll today.
oh, at the national level,
Smoke.
they shouldn't be Republicans. I'm not sure what they should be. They should be career politicians, and they should probably join the Democratic Party. Because, again, what we are looking for, and I'll give you the different terms, there's a train, which is called the United States, heading for a major cliff. Okay? And it's under the Democratic Party, they opened it up full throttle, and they're heading there. When the Republicans get any kind of power, they slow it down a little. They don't turn the damn thing around.
Do they?
A little. Not a lot, a little.
We've had
And
that conversation.
At this
before.
point, we need to elect people that'll find out there is a reverse, because that's the only way we're going to get out of this thing. So anyway, yes, sir. Would you like to express a little bit of what I talked about?
What he said. No. So, I mean, all kidding aside. What about, I mean, and I'm not doing this to bust your balls, okay? What have I been telling you for months, Bill, right? This is, thank you for coming to my side, right? Again, I do want to agree with Bill and make something clear. We're talking national level.
Right.
I really believe that also, and I have for a while. When you see what Florida's done, what Texas has done, Arkansas, North Carolina, where we are, they've done a magnificent job. Iowa, I'm leaving ones out, right? They've done a magnificent job at the state level. At the federal level, Mickey Mouse would be a better leader than these guys. And I mean at every federal level. This is not, to you, this is like we've turned the page. I said this happened 40 years ago.
We turned the volume.
I mean, it is, and the reason I have enjoying this so much is because it is exposing it. And I think ultimately it will fix the problem. Because
I hope.
even the most unintelligent monkey in the world can see that something needs to be done here. Now, I'm hoping that the state leaders and maybe, I don't know, county leaders might step up and vocalize a little bit about this.
Oh, I'll tell you what. I know a county leader that is really starting to support convention of states with term limits.
Who would that be?
Some guy I know, great guy, lives down in southeast North Carolina. Kind of quiet and humble, but he's willing to come turn.
Quiet and humble.
Thank you. We agree to that.
Well, we did a whole show on convention.
Yes, we
states.
did,
Go,
and
go check that out. I'll put a link below if I remember.
Yeah.
But
you know, and there was, but now it's obvious with these people in Congress on both sides of the House. They need to go home, and they need to go back to what we had 250 years ago. It was a part-time job that you came there and you worked for a couple of years, a couple of terms, and you went home. You didn't make a life career out of it, and that's what needs to happen now.
And what did you do with Bill? You have come to my side of the plate.
I am telling you,
Wow.
when you tick me off, don't.
So let's talk about some of the repercussions of what's going on. So the House is essentially paralyzed at this point. We have Mr. Bowtie running it. I call him Mr. Bowtie, sorry.
That's a North Carolinian.
I know he
He
is,
is.
but he's Mr. Bowtie. To me, he's the epitome of feckless in weak. But anyway, I'm going to give him credit. He's done what he could with the powers that are granted to him.
Which are extremely
Which
limited,
are
to be fair.
virtually none.
Right.
I would
Well, that's
argue.
limited.
Yeah. And there is talk of giving him more, which I do believe needs to be done and done now.
Not in a temporary position.
I'm simply saying from the standpoint of, like you mentioned, we got an actual war in Ukraine. We have an actual war in Israel. We got a proxy war already started in Taiwan.
And our country's got some issues.
At least give him enough powers to get the House able to do something.
Unfortunately, when you do that, the Democrats are looking for some things to support it. For example, the first thing they like is that if this guy stays temp and takes over, he's no longer in presidential succession, which is an issue. So now it goes directly from the vice president to the leader of the Senate, Chucky Schumer. Oh, well, up, Chuck. And so there's a thought. From dumb to dumber, if you go through.
Wow.
So that's not working. The other thing is the Democrats have already said we will have to compromise on certain legislation to get our support, which means they're going to want more money for immigration. They're going to want more money to be spent X, Y, and Z.
They want more money for their own pockets. Let's put it to where it should be.
Yes, and by the way, that one person that's running that's anti-Jordan has also said his problem is earmarks.
How many earmarks is he getting behind the scenes?
How many does he want?
Yeah. See, and that's the thing that no one is talking about.
Why don't you
But
tell
I think
people what
we will.
earmarks are?
Backroom deals. Let's just leave it at that. We got to be polite about it. So, and this is where I was about to go. Is look, the reason these 25
25 right now.
are holding out is they aren't getting their backroom deal that they want. Let's be honest.
That's it.
Right? It is. It was the same thing that happened in January with McCarthy. By the way, it's the same thing that happened with Pelosi a couple of years ago. They all make their backroom deals to get the votes, earmarks, if you will. We'll give you this. We'll pass this legislation. We'll throw $10 million at, some building in your district. All of that stuff. That's how Congress operates. It's not about what's best for the country. It's not about what's best for the people of the country. It's who can get the most for their district so that they can put it in their pocket. That about sum it up?
Very eloquently, too.
Because, how do you become a 100-millionaire
On
on
$177,000
$177,000 a year?
and run two different places to do it. Whatever
Exactly.
It is.
So they all, and by the way, you're differentiating Republicans and Democrats. There's one party. It's called the Uniparty. There has been for a while. They have their little game they play where they're going to be tough on one or the other. But I have believed for quite a while they've been in cahoots all along. I mean, we're talking decades.
Well, so what you're saying is you don't believe McConnell is standing out there to be the pillar of conservatism?
Him? That's the name you're going to pull out?
Yes, that's
I mean, if you had said
sarcasm.
Yeah, but Jordan would have been even better because Jordan leans that way.
Legitimately.
But he's part of the Uniparty. I'm sorry.
No,
all
I
are.
don't think so. I think Jordan is going to shake things up if they give it to him.
Not,
well-
he may have. I'll give you that. But now, if he gets elected with all the deals he's made or would have had to have made, he may go to the Democrats and go, you know what? I need 10 votes. I will give you, pick their flavor of the day cause.
No, Jordan won't do that.
I
The
hope
other
not.
side will. They will go over there and say, we'll elect Jeffries because now we're going to be censured anyway. And we'll elect Jeffries, but what do we get out of it?
It goes back to what I think we talked about a couple
By the way,
weeks
if
ago.
we elect Jeffries, he makes Nancy Pelosi look conservative.
Yeah, that's being kind. I follow him on Twitter. Oh my, he's got trains ready to go to ship us off.
For re-education.
Oh, for re-education, he's got them ready. You will have trains with him. It's again, we're talking about the repercussions though. So, with Congress essentially paralyzed at this point.
But you know what the deal is probably going to be? Give me my $105 billion and we'll give you what you need.
For what?
For what the president spoke to last
He's
night.
going to give it to him anyway.
Maybe.
Not maybe. That's a done deal. You watch.
I don't think they're
He's
going to get it
funding
all through
terrorism.
there. I think some of it's going to get cut.
I don't.
And the other great lie is this is for a year.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because to kind of go here, we were talking about the budget a couple of weeks ago, and you were trumpeting how they were going to cut costs.
And their plan did. Unfortunately, their plan was never
And then
implemented.
you put out a video saying they were going to hold it to less than 1%.
No, I said that. Yes, I did.
Okay, that's not a cut, Bill. Okay, when you go from $4 trillion, almost five in spending,
No, I don't think I did that.
to almost seven,
No.
and then you're going to cut back to 6.5. That's not a cut. A cut would have been go back to 4.
No.
Yes. We need, again, this is why I'm glad this chaos is happening. It's not a good thing. Let me clarify that. But the people that are going to win in the end on this is us, because people are getting pissed. Present company is proof.
I think I've been very calm about this so far.
I think the best alternative is vote every incumbent out. Every single one of them. There is not one I would keep at this point. They've all proven it. Every one of them.
I
know you'll disagree
modify
with that.
No, I'd modify that and say challenge every one in a primary, because
Could be primary.
otherwise you're giving the other side this position.
What other side? They're two sides of the same coin.
The Democratic Party has gone ultra left, so they're going to run an ultra left for that position. This is going to make them bigger, and we are ultra stupid. But there's a difference.
I don't. Ultra stupid.
That's where we are right now at the federal level.
How? Who are you?
The man who's right up to here.
I am loving this, by the way. Okay, well, the ultra stupid party.
Federal party.
So, let's step back. How does the ultra stupid federal party, as you just called them, fix this?
The only way to fix it is if the people get together and they put a solid conservative in every primary against every one of these people as they come up. In the case of the House, everybody's up. So
every one of them.
So
Out.
challenge every one of them with a conservative candidate. But the trick is not to challenge them with 6 conservative candidates, because they'll split the vote and resident useless gets reelected again. So we need to coalesce behind one conservative in a primary and take down every one of these people and send them home with a message. And then topple that, we need to actually have everybody that we elect consent to of term limits.
Amen to that. But let me ask you this. As someone who might be somewhat familiar with how the party operates, a little bit.
A little bit. By being almost pregnant.
Yeah. So, knowing what you know, and I'm not disagreeing with what you say needs to be done. In fact, I wholeheartedly agree with you. Who's going to be the leader to get that done? Because I don't see anybody out there.
It's going to have to come from the states, because the national party is unfortunately as bad as they are.
Why aren't they, the states, why aren't they going and literally firing, I'm not even talking the reps, I'm talking McDaniel, all of them, get them out. Why, a serious question, why haven't they done it?
Well, because you end up electing only 3 people from each state to represent the entire state at the vote, which is also the chair of the party at the state level, and a male and a female has to be one of each who are. And in our case in North Carolina, we've reelected them for years, so they're always there.
So they're entrenched also.
So they get up to the national level, and they're the ones that decide who the chairman's going to be, who of the national, and the leadership up there. So until we turn around and we change all that, so that probably means.
Well, that's my question: is how do we change that?
Well, first of all, we need to, at the state level, get our state leadership to realize we're all serious. Because, for example, in our state, our leader, Watley, is a great guy. He's done a lot of great things. But he needs to understand that we're not going to accept the leadership at the national anymore. And he either goes with it or he steps down. Okay? And that's going to be a difficult decision for him, because he's very, very good at what he does. He's very, very good at sharing that information around the nation. But he's also very tied to the national committee. So he has to make a decision, and unfortunately, those changes aren't going to happen until 2025.
Well, this was my next question was going to be is when can we get them even moving forward on that? It's going to be that far out.
Yeah, because the only exception in North Carolina would be the district chairs, because they haven't been elected because of there was chaos with the maps in North Carolina. So they don't know what the districts look like. So they're going to be elected in the next month or so. I found out today from my own sources that either Tuesday or Wednesday of next week, then the new maps will be approved by the state legislature, and then they're going right into court because the Dems already started suing.
Well, that like we didn't know that was going to happen anyway.
Yeah, but so there's a first change because each one of those districts are something that we need to probably talk about a little more later. But now we have to pay a few bills.
Well done. Nice segue there.
So let's take a break right now, and we'll be back to talk to you soon.
And get him some Valium because I think he needs it.
Mouth to mouth.
Not for me. All right, we are back to Reclaiming America. I'm Dan. This is the old guy. So you were talking about the district, and we had to go to break.
Yeah, North Carolina, the districts have not elected leadership yet. So there is a chance to elect a conservative to take over those districts, and those conservatives each have a seat on the central committee at the state level. So that would bring 14 more votes to go the right direction. Because there's two levels. There's a state committee, which I'm a member of as being a county chair, but the elite committee is the one that goes above that, which is district and some of the leadership from
So the committee for the committee.
Right, the internal committee.
So
but
more
these
red
14
tape.
would get
Okay.
the ability to go in there and change things. That would be a start because they could put pressure to start from our state. If it's done in multiple states, this could start putting pressure on the nationals.
Well, so I have a couple questions. One is kind of like a joke. But like if I wanted to be at the state level but not at the county level, could you nominate, say, me and elect me, even though I'm not a county chair?
You're talking about for the district
For
chair?
the district, for the upper level. That's three, the three.
Oh, the three that go to the national?
That level. The ones
that comes out of the state and CGA.
So it has to be someone.
It can be anybody, anybody that's nominated, and they take a nomination
I might
from the floor.
re-register as a Republican then.
You can be nominated from the floor. They'll come
That's
up
what
with a
I'm asking.
slate,
Okay.
but you can
So it
nominate from the
doesn't-
floor.
so-
It's got to be a Republican.
It doesn't have to be a county chair or.
No. Those, as a matter of fact, the two people that are going there are not in
That's what I
any
wanted
other
to know.
way. They don't hold any of the positions within the state.
Because to me, that's the best option. And I'm not saying it for me, because I would make Trump look like a choir boy. But I'm saying, and we've talked about this before. We talked about term limits and all that in the past, or age limits. In general, I think we need new blood across the board at the federal level, even in some cases in the state, New York. But New York, sorry.
Well, that would not be a red state.
By the way, how come it's such a problem that the Republicans are rewriting the districts in North Carolina, and it's appalling how they're doing that? New York, California have been doing that for 40 years now, and apparently it's fine.
Because the people that are rewriting them are the people that sue. So
I'm
therefore,
just
it's not
saying.
a problem.
But anyway, side note. All right, so let me get a couple questions in here, because you're the expert, I'm not. So what you're talking about in North Carolina, would that be the process in all states, or do all states do it differently?
There may be slight changes, but that's basically the process everywhere.
So Florida could do it, Montana,
Texas, well,
whatever.
all 50 states have Republican parties.
No,
And they
don't.
all
Well,
go through. And then they may not be in
in
charge.
name, they do.
Even in North Carolina, Durham has a Republican Party.
California has a Republican
Yes,
Party
they do. A very strong one,
that
too.
would make Chairman Mao look like a right-winger. Okay, let's be honest. I said it, not him. So again, where I'm going is, I'm kind of relating this to back in the day, the Tea Party, right?
Yep.
That was very grassroots. It was the average person speaking up. I think we need to get back to that. It needs to come from there. We need to get the old guard out, present company excluded, and get fresh blood in there that is not tied to lobbyists, the uniparty, all that crap. It's not about a party at this point. It's about the country. We have to save the country. I would rather get someone who leans left that at least is putting the country first. I'm not talking a woke left. It used to be Kennedy. We're going to get to that.
That's where you get to have your humble
Oh,
pie.
boy. I'm going to go raging.
Yeah, you should.
But somebody like, I would rather have that than re-elect somebody from the uniparties, because it is not working. It has not worked for decades. Some would argue ever. And it's only going to get worse. We have to get rid of these lifetime politicians at every level. Now, the only way that's going to happen is if people, and I don't mean this as a revolution, but I'm saying rise up and say, enough's enough, we're done. We're going to vote for.
The grassroots has to kick up.
They have to at this point.
But the grassroots also has to remember when they're doing it, they got to cover everybody in the tent and not just an extreme wing of the tent.
Well, let me ask you this along those lines. Would we be better off fracturing like that? You know, you look at England, for example. England has 3 main parties, and there's a 4th one out there. I forget the 4th one. It's so
There's a liberal conservative.
There's the Tories, the conservative. I forget the name, but it's the UK.
The Workers' Party.
Yeah.
There's a few.
But they have a few. But some of the smaller ones have a lot of power, even though they don't have much representation, because they have enough votes that if they are willing to go with somebody else, then the legislation gets passed. I actually think this is a good thing that we need to get to.
But we'd have to change our constitution.
We can have as many parties as we want.
That's not the problem. The problem, what's different in England, is if you had a coalition put together in the United Kingdom, and you had the 10 votes I needed to be in charge.
No, I'm talking about for legislative passing. Now, I know what you're saying, like
Okay.
PM and all that. No,
Right.
We're not talking about that. What I'm saying is, let's say we have the Republicans, the Democrats, the Whigs, the pretty horsey party, whatever. All right. So we have, let's say, 5.
The
parties.
party of O. Henry.
Henry Party, the Greta Party, all that. Let's say we have 5. All right. And let's say you've got 535 reps. Let's say a couple hundred Republican, a couple hundred Democrats, but the other ones may only have 25, 30, 40, 50. But they need those votes. So even though it's only 50 people or 40, they have a lot of power. We're seeing that with the Republican Party now. It's going, the positive there's negatives to it, first, to be sure. Because gridlock will happen, which is not a bad thing in my opinion. But it's also going to force them to cooperate. I think the main issue we have right now is we have a 2-party system that makes a show that they're not cooperating, but behind the scenes they're cooperating. That's my opinion. Thoughts?
And I don't disagree with some of that. I just, my concern would be term limits that we put in there with the new people. And the other thing that needs to be put in there, whenever you go into gridlock, nobody gets paid.
They're 100 millionaires. They don't care. I mean, I agree with you. I don't,
because that includes your staff.
I still don't think they care.
I do think they would care.
think that they are so clueless, they wouldn't care what happens to their staff. It's about them, though.
The staff would care.
The staff will care.
And that's going to affect what they do.
But
when I'm not coming to work anymore because you can't get paid, and the other part of that is still got to be, once you go back to work, there's no back pay.
Well, I agree with everything you're saying. I just don't think it's going to have the effect on them.
All right, well, we're going to leave that as a point right now because I want to hear you have your
Kennedy,
slice of humble pie.
Not humble pie, raging. I'm going to rage.
Okay, it's your turn.
My turn to rage. So, again, I have been watching Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Who you've supported.
I have not said I would have voted for him. I was leaning. Again, we're a year out. I don't know who I'm going to vote for. But I liked a lot of what he was saying. I thought he would be the one that could. Left center, I think, is fair to put him there.
I would agree. Center left, I would actually put him.
Okay. 6 of one, half dozen the other. Pretty much.
There's a movement.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. But I could have supported him. And then this week, he came out and said, I'm in favor of reparations because he's trying to get the far left vote. It's not the reparations that are the issue for me. It's the fact he's trying to court the far left.
Which means he's putting up his principles for sale.
His principles are exactly it. And I lost him right there. He's lost me. Because the one thing he had going for him to get the center and potentially the lefter-leaning Republicans was that he was going to clean house and that he was not going to play that game. And then now he's came right out and said, I'm going to play the game. He doesn't need the woke vote. But that's going to go to Biden anyway. Why would he court them? Why?
Because I think in the back of his mind, he's hoping he can pull the Democratic nomination out of it.
He's not getting the Democratic. They hate him.
Oh, I'm sure. But
he
might be the compromise candidate if there's a battle.
I don't see that ever happening.
Well, I'm just saying he's hoping. I didn't say that it was
yeah,
legitimate.
I just, it's lunacy to me that he did that.
Well, I
Again,
agree.
it's not about the reparations. It's that he's trying to court the far left.
He sold his principles
And
for
that's
a
exactly the
potential
way.
vote.
And it's not going to be a vote he gets.
It's not a whole lot different than years ago when Tammany Hall used to go around and give people $10 for a bottle to go vote.
Yeah.
It's the same principle.
But it's like, he's not a stupid man. He's a very intelligent man. He shot himself in the foot
What
right then
even
and
be
there.
worse is if he didn't sell his principles and those are his real principles.
Well, that's in the back of my mind is he playing the I'm going to clean house card
And then going to do
and then going to go far left?
And that's a
And
possibility
that's
now.
the other thing that's out there is if you just showed your cards, my friend, you burned your bridges with me. I mean, I can't trust him now. You know, say what you will about Trump, whether you like him or not. What he says, I believe, is in his heart so
And it's
deep,
consistent.
and he is consistent, and he don't care. I will give him that. I don't agree with some of the stuff that he says. I agree with his principles and his policies, but you know, we've talked about this before. He's playing the celebrity game. But there is no doubt in my mind that what he says he's going to do, he will try and do. He may not succeed because he won't get help. Kennedy, I was so disappointed, Bill. I was so disappointed by
Welcome
that.
to my world with the Republican Party
And again,
at the national level.
I may not have voted for him, but at least I was willing to listen. I'm not anymore.
Look, he piqued my interest too because I thought he could be a viable third-party candidate, and he could affect one side or the other winning the election. But at this particular point, he's lost any consideration from me.
I think we've talked about this before. We're in some disagreement. I think he had a shot, a legitimate shot. I'm not saying, if I was going to put a number on it, I'd probably put it at 20%, maybe 25% to win, running as a centrist.
Sounds like a Ross Perot number.
Yeah, but I think the way things are now, people are, especially now with what's going on in the House, there is people, we've talked about when we're going to reach that pain point. I think we're well past it now.
Not yet. I think that the outrage is there because of the stupidity going on at varying levels. But I don't think the pain is there because there's still too many people that inflation and their cost is an inconvenience. It's not a decision whether I buy gas or
I don't know.
feed the family.
Again, I disagree with you there. I think every time you go to the checkout at your local grocery store, you're getting reinforced that we have to have a change. And I laugh because I do some of my shopping. I get Walmart groceries. So I looked back 2 years ago, and I pretty much order the same thing every time, and it was like $50 less. And I'm talking like 4 bags of stuff than I paid this week, because you can go track your orders. And I'm sitting there going, how the hell did this happen? Well, I know how it happened, but and again, you'll blame Biden for it. I put the Republican Party right there with them because they didn't stop them. Or they didn't even try. So it's just, I think we have reached that pain point. My fear, see what you think on this, is that it's not going to be about changing who we elect. I think it's going to get really ugly next year.
Stand back from the time. It'll actually start before the conventions, but the conventions will
Early
be
spring, I know
July.
where you're going, yeah.
You're going to have July with the Republicans, and the Democrats will be August, because traditionally the second party is always the one that's in power. So they do the August one. And it's going to get nasty from just before that, and they're going to come out of the gates swinging, and there's going to be absolutely nothing untouchable in this election.
Can I give you a counter argument?
Yes, sir.
It's already happened. We had an insurrection this week.
Yes, I know we did. Notice
already
I
happened.
don't see Congress calling in.
It's not coming, Bill. It's here.
We've had 2 insurrections if you listen to Congress. They've
mean,
only had 1, but we're talking about a second one.
and they are so downplaying this. I'm like, if one's an insurrection, the other one is. Which means, by the way, there was an insurrection in 2017. Then you had the pink you-know-what hats. That was an insurrection.
No, what?
Go in there, Bill. Family show.
I thought I'd see if I could go with you a little bit.
But again, I do think you're already seeing it starting. What you saw happen this week where they stormed the Capitol, to use the phrase they love to use, this is just the beginning. This is the baby steps, but they are moving forward. This is the probe, if you will, military terms. You know, what's going to happen in the spring, I think it's just going to gradually escalate.
Oh, we're in for a summer of hell.
It's going to make 2020 look like a kindergarten party.
It may go back to 1968 and make that look like a kindergarten
But here's
party.
the thing. Here's my point. In 2020, it happened, and the average people didn't respond. There were some towns that did to kick the woke protesters out. They got together and they drove them right out of town, some small towns. I have a bad feeling you're going to see some of the bigger cities.
Cities are going to be in flames.
They're going to become a war zone.
They're going to be in flames. And that just like, but again, go back. If you want to go back historically, go back to 68. And it's somewhat parallel because they're Democrats.
Other than you and me, nobody here is watching us was born. So you have to educate them what happened.
In 68, we had an election where there were Democrats and Republicans where there was an anti-war going on with Vietnam, and they were at each other's throats, and there was burning in the streets. They actually tried to take over conventions.
It was war.
And, you know, the young were basically behind that at the whole 9 yards. But it was not pleasant. And we're heading that way. And you're right. I think 2020 is going to be easy compared to what we're going to see in 2024.
We're going to look back on 2022 and or 2020
as
and
good
go,
times.
And go, that was most peaceful protesting. You know, let's just put it this way. I am ordering a few things from the catalog.
And I will tell you the other interesting part with that is going to be once they start, the difference is going to be this time is the other star is going to start.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's my point. Is I think we've reached the breaking point. I think we've gone over it. I'm literally saying there's going to be war zones. They're going to be not fighting with words. You're seeing
and we're not
right
advocating
now.
this, by the way.
God, I hope not. That's my point.
I'm just making sure that you know that that's him saying that.
You look at the protests between people pro-Israeli and the people pro-Palestinian. The police are having to get between them constantly because they are going to go.
And they're going after each other big time.
We're not talking yelling, okay? I think it's just going to get worse and worse, and you're going to see the Civil War, the shootings start. I hope to God I'm wrong on that.
I hope you're wrong, but I also would just point out that one side will be coming with Molotov cocktails and bats, and the other side will be clicking and going.
I hate to tell you though, the other side is getting armed. They're getting there. I know your point. You know, it'll be 10-1 as far as that, but that one is still.
And we're still not advocating killing or shooting.
God, I hope no.
No, but we're just telling you the reality of what could be.
And that's the problem is. There are a lot of people that are angry that don't see that, and those are the ones that I fear because they're going to go from 0 to 60 on it.
And the problem we're going to have on this one is the press is 100 times worse than they were in 68.
They're going to fan the flames on it.
They're going to be playing that just like they've done with the, let's go to the current war in Israel, which is our next piece.
Let's go there.
Well, that's really our next piece, the whole war zone over there.
Oh, we can kind of drift into it. Well, on that note,
about time we wrap this segment.
Why don't we just wrap this up early, and then it'll give us more time on it.
Segment.
Go ahead.
All right, everybody. So we'll be back with part 3 of Reclaiming America, and we'll be taking on what you might have heard is going on around the world while someone sits in his beach house and fans the sand.
We're going to solve the Middle East crisis, aren't we?
We're going to probably, let's go there.
Let's put it this way. We couldn't do any worse than what they're trying to do.
All right. See you soon. Welcome back, everybody. We're Reclaiming America. Dan and I have been having a great time having discussions. In the first segment, I had a piece of humble pie.
Who the hell this
In
guy
the
is.
second segment, he had his slice.
Yeah, but mine was like this little tiny slice. Yours was there.
I earned the bigger slice. Let me put it that way.
He came to my side, and I am gloating about that off air.
Well,
so let's have a discussion about
$105 billion and where these people want to spend it and why.
I should have had a pudding cup with me because that would have had more brains than our president. But yeah, 105 billion for
Ukraine, Israel,
and
Taiwan,
Taiwan.
and the slush fund for anything else he wants to spend it
You
on.
didn't mention the 100 million to the
To
the
Gaza,
Palestinians.
to the Gaza Strip. Yes,
He means Hamas.
yes, he does. But of course, you know something? You go to look at that. There are, what was it, 9 million? No, how many? 2 million people living in the Strip. I don't remember. the numbers.
It's somewhere around there. Yeah.
Not one of them came out and criticized the killing of babies, the raping of women. They were all very, very much pro. So they're all guilty at some level. So let's start there.
Well, you know, it was funny because someone had, and I forget who it was. It was like one of those reporters going around, and they were saying that the Palestinian people didn't choose for this to happen. They didn't. Oh, the wording was they didn't elect to have this happen. And I sat there and go, well, who the hell do you think elected Hamas?
Well,
It
actually,
was
what's
Palestinian
interesting,
people.
if you go historically back to that,
2006,
the last
I
election
believe.
was 2005 or 6.
6, somewhere in there. Yeah.
Yeah, and when they had the election, Hamas took 44% of the vote everywhere, and the Palestinians who kept a bare majority are afraid to have another election because they're sure the next time they'll have no voice. So
Exactly.
they've shut down the elections because of the influence Hamas has got within that 2 million people.
You know, the point that I want to make with all this is another 100 billion, give or take. We've already spent roughly 200 billion in Ukraine. We got people here that are literally starving. We got veterans who need health care, mental health care.
Housing.
You got homeless everywhere. Housing has reached a point where the average family is on the street. And we're sending all our money overseas. And meanwhile, I got, you know, my representative telling me, well, we can't help small businesses because that'll raise inflation. But I'll vote to send $300 million overseas.
Well, the other
What
thing
the
that
hell?
people need to remember, under the Biden administration, we already gave Gaza $300 million, which is probably the basis for why we're having this money, not counting the $6 billion we gave Iran and the fact we allowed them to go from 400,000 barrels of oil a year to 3 to 4 billion barrels, which they sell, which can then fund all the terrorists everywhere they want to fund.
What was the argument when Trump was president and he wanted his wall money? It was, I believe, around $5 billion. We couldn't afford that.
No.
There was no way we could afford that.
Oh, we left something out
Oh.
in that 105 billion.
What's that?
He's putting money in there for border security.
Oh, yeah, well, that too. Yeah. Well, give him credit for that one, I guess. I'm trying. Just work with me on that one. I'm trying. How do we have all this money? Where is it coming from?
It's called Turn on the Printing Presses.
And who could put a stop to some of it? Starts with House of and ends with Representatives.
If they weren't so
Some
feckless
of it.
and useless right now. You got me going back to the
I'm
first
trying
segment.
to tie it back into the first segment. That is their job, right? Now, this, you know, we go off, and we're on different sides of what Gates did, but that's one of the positives, I think, is he
Created a crisis.
he created a crisis and stopped the printing press in doing so.
But
And
unfortunately, he didn't do it for the right reasons.
I didn't say it was the right reasons, but I still support what he did because
Well,
of that.
that's like saying he murdered this person, but it's okay because the reasons were good.
Yes, I'm okay with that.
Okay.
If it's a bad person, if it's Jeffrey Dahmer, would you be okay with it then?
No, because he has his day in court. And then you shoot the bastard.
Then shoot the bastard. Wow. You know, it's like you said, we are literally.
Let's look at where we
printing
are
money.
right now. The United States is definitely logistically at minimum, and I would guess several hundred or thousand troops sitting in Ukraine in various places is either advisors or
Advisors.
or trainers, pick the word you'd like to use, or logistics
Cannon.
people.
I would use cannon fodder.
And then you've got the troops that are there to protect them while they're doing the supposed advising. They surround the base with some troops to guard them. So that's one little battle going on. And we've been pouring money and equipment into that place now for years. Okay. Now we've got the Israeli situation where we have 1 to 2 fleets of aircraft carrier and support
We
things.
parked a MAU off of Israel, a Marine Amphibious Unit.
Yeah, and
They're not sitting there to go on vacation. They're not
think?
sunning themselves on deck.
Yeah, and we put a Delta force
Oh,
on order.
let's go there.
Go for it. You want to go for that one?
So for those that haven't seen the photograph, because it was taken down, our illustrious pudding brain president had a photo op done where he was standing with a couple of Delta Force operators. Some would argue, our most elite unit.
Yeah, they are.
I would venture to agree with that. Some will say SEAL Team 6. It's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. Who are ultra secret because of what they do. They don't put their identities out there for a reason. One, their safety, but more importantly, their family safety.
Exactly.
And what does Pudding Brain do? He does a photo op with them. And then his staff throws it out on social media. Now, they're trying to walk it back on, well, we took it down an hour later. Because, by doing that, it's not out on the internet anymore.
Of course not.
I've only seen about 15 copies of it this morning alone.
And by the way, you've insulted pudding company manufacturers. So let's
My
go
apologies to Jell-O Pudding. But then again, I don't have much sympathy for them because, hello, Bill Cosby. But anyway, we should talk about something along those lines too. But again, who's the genius who thought of this?
No, nobody thinking of anything.
Who thought this
You
was
know,
a good...
this is no worse than when they revealed this SEAL Team 6 one after Bin Laden.
Well, at least if you screw up that bad, and let's face it, that was a monumental screw up, you don't come out and go, yeah, they were Delta Force operators. Spin it. They were a couple of Marines, or in this case, Army people that just happened to be there with the president. At least you could have somewhat covered it up. They can't even do that right. And now they're talking about landing those Marines, the Mao sitting off the coast.
And then by some coincidence.
Why?
And this ties to the fact that just before we got here today, they released 2 Americans from the...
Why would they have done that, Bill?
Well, my guess is 2 reasons. Number one...
I'll give you 100 million reasons.
S for brains, and you can fill in the S.
Putty. That's why I'm using
Putty
it.
works, okay. S for brains. Last night, purposely did not mention Hamas, nor did he mention Iran in his speech, and I think that might have been one possibility to reward for being good that way and not saying it. Okay.
Fair point.
The other issue might be tied to those pictures. Someone figured out that, hey, these guys are here, and they may be looking for us, so maybe we should throw them a bone to keep them from bothering us.
Well, to be fair, we know they were there. I mean, you and I both know. If you think SEALs aren't in country already, I got news for you. They were there the day it happened, which was a couple Saturdays ago, being ready to rescue if and when they can. They have the opportunity. But when you sit there and we're going to be at war. Remember, we've always said maybe next year.
Maybe next year's next week.
I wonder if we're going to make it to Christmas. Because not only is that all happening, but we're shooting down missiles.
Yes, over in the Formosa Straits in Taiwan. Our carriers are taking down missiles being fired around them, from North Korea, China.
These are all tests of us, right? We talked about it last week where I think, Ukraine, they're not false flag operations, but they're operations designed to weaken us, use up all our munitions. Now you got Israel going at it. If you think Iran's not going to step up at some point, there's crap going on in Iraq. We attacked parts of Iraq, us.
Look, they still want Kuwait.
Of course they do. We are going to be in World War III, not if, but when.
Yeah, the question is, you're right. I was saying maybe next year. You're absolutely right with the thought that maybe it's Christmas.
We might not get home today and find out we're at war. I mean, we're on the edge. It's that close. All we need is one itchy trigger finger somewhere to do some moron hits a button, some moron whatever.
Stop calling the president a moron.
I'm not even talking about him. I'm talking about some Chinese guy sitting in a missile silo accidentally hits a button. Boom, we're done.
Or they shoot up a missile, we shoot up from the frigate, shoots a missile, take it down, and they interpret that as an act of war, and someone starts firing the good stuff.
I've always thought next year at the earliest, in the summer, maybe, I think we're there. I think it's in the shooting. We can't even say the shooting hasn't begun yet. It has. We're already firing.
Well, and the problem is, we both know, we've talked about this, if they're going to do something, they've got to do it under this administration because the chance of a different administration coming in and changing policy is great. And, if Trump wins again or someone like him wins again, suddenly these idle threats that we throw out are not idle anymore. They will do it.
Well, I was thinking about that earlier this week because I get your point on that, and I've agreed with you all along. But can Trump even stop it at this point? I think it's too far gone, Bill. I think the plays are all in place. The plays are being run down the field.
Look, the
Putting
game
the
plan is
genie
going to
back
be to
in
get
the
it
bottle?
over before November
Yeah, I just
next
think
year.
even if it holds off till Trump is if Trump is president, we can't say he's going to
We
be.
can't make that for certain.
And at this point, I have serious doubts he's going to be president. I don't even think he would be able to stop it because he's not going to have the support in Congress. They are, if you think they're not making millions off all these deals, you think we're sending $100 million to Ukraine and some of it ain't making its way back? Come on.
Never.
They all happen to own stock in Raytheon, General Dynamics, all that stuff. Come on.
The issue is, will it happen while he's still president? The answer is yes. Will it be over before he's done being president? God knows. But the way we fight wars now, they're lightning. They're no longer 7-year battles. It's going to be a lightning battle in a major conflict.
It may not be that it will be over. It may be that we will be over.
In that case, can I get a weekend pass to get?
As it could escalate rapidly.
Sure.
Like you think about, let's use Taiwan as an example. If let's say it's getting really bad, where the Chinese are steamrolling Taiwan, you think we might not drop a tactical?
We've already discussed this. There's a reality.
Very
when you're
good
greatly
reality.
outnumbered, you've got to do something to
do
break
something,
the tie.
And
if technology won't do it, then you've got to use bold, fast power.
Ukraine is
tac
making,
nukes.
They've had this counterattack all summer, which has done. I mean, they didn't get the breakout they wanted, but they're making gains.
Yeah, but the Russians actually withdrew from the Mediterranean. That's a big step.
Well, that's a big step. But at some point, if Putin starts seeing Ukraine really get it going, he'll drop a tactical. And then NATO comes in, and where we are is, we won't know. Because
we'll know about 20 minutes of it.
I don't even think it'll be 20 minutes. It'll be more like 2, because somewhere off our coast is probably a nuke boat.
I'm not sure where we currently are as a primary target.
Port City with the main ammunition dump for the entire East Coast.
Well, that's not on our side of the river. That's their problem.
Well, your side of the river is going to catch all the wind.
No,
We could be standing here looking out the window that's behind our producer, watching pretty little mushroom clouds go up like that.
Not long, though.
That's the point, right? We won't know after that.
As a matter of fact, pretty much after we see the first spark go up, we're already going.
We're going to go, gee, look at, there we're done. We won't even finish the sentence.
That's true.
We're joking around, hopefully. But my worry is wars start over stupid little things sometimes.
We may be closer to World War III than we were with the Cuban Missile Crisis.
I would argue we are.
I agree with you.
I would argue we are, because
you've got a destabilized Russia who's in a war like we were, an endless war. You've got the Chinese looking to exert their power and influence, which they're doing in great speed around the country.
And we have to give them credit. They're doing a magnificent job at what they're trying to do.
Well, absolutely.
Sorry to say that.
And they play the long game. If you've gone through some of the Central American and South American countries, and I have done some of them, you'll be traveling in the middle of nowhere, and suddenly there's a giant Chinese cultural embassy or a giant training center that they've put in to help the locals.
Same in Africa.
They've got the long game that they're playing, and they have the time, and again, we go back to that old thing. There's enough of them that they can take out 10 of us for every one of them, and they win.
If it even gets to the land side of it. I mean,
and you got Iran that's crazy, and you got North Korea who's just as crazy.
You got Russia. There's already fighting going on. You've got the Middle East, already fighting going on.
Right. Which Iran is.
And it's now escalating though, because we're starting to drop things in Iraq. That happened yesterday. So there's 2 hotbeds, and now Taiwan is just sitting there.
And it's festering. It's not
And
just sitting there; it's starting to fester.
they're starting to escalate. Yeah,
Yes.
that's a good point. I enjoy this Christmas. That's all I'm going to say. If we get to there, because I could legitimately, and I'm not trying to scaremonger or any of that. I'm genuinely concerned that it'll be all over. And I'd like to say cooler heads will prevail, but when you have pudding cup for a president,
And we have not even addressed that if that third balloon goes up, the second and third balloon, the first and second balloon are already causing issues in our own country. And you've got two parts of that balloon now. You've got our own people, which are running around and screaming that they've got to defend Hamas and whatever else.
oh, don't get me going. Well, let's get me going on that.
Well, let's get in a minute. But you also then have the number of cells that are most likely here just waiting for the war to start. And they're all over the
or
place.
they will be the ones that start the war.
It could very well be. So we have an issue at home. We got an issue in 3 hotspots around the world. And we have a guy sitting there at the beach counting sand dunes.
As a military guy, if you were a Chinese general, could you have set it up any better than it is set up right now?
No, and the thing is, it's an ideal time to get it going.
That's my
It
my
is
point.
an
Right.
ideal time to pull that string and get it started for a couple of reasons. One, you start a limited operation to test the response.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they're doing now with just testing with those missiles.
Yep.
They want to see U.S. response. Logistically, they all know that we're short of ammunition and whatever else to do that because we've, of course, announced it.
That was brilliant.
Brains were dynamite. Some people couldn't blow their noses. And very is the case you have sitting in Washington. So you've got those issues, and they're testing. And the more they test, the more aggressive they're going to be. You've got North Korea looking for a reason to go into South Korea and Japan, just looking for the ability to do it.
Or he'll be told to do it.
Yeah, that's true, too.
Because China runs North Korea, let's be honest.
You think?
A little bit. So they'll and I actually could see that happening next, where it'll be raids. I don't think they'll just full-blown go. They'll start with
Probing
raids.
again.
See what they, stir it up a little bit, see our reaction.
When units go out and they do probing, and it's just part of military tactics when you don't know exactly what's in front of you. You go up there, you draw some fire to see what they've got. You get a handle of what ammunition they've got. You probably get a good shot of the size of the unit, depending what's coming at you. And then you can find out what their logistics are. So,
And the thing to keep in mind, if there's a fight over Taiwan, is we are at the end of our string distance-wise. Taiwan's roughly 100 miles off the Chinese coast. Their bases are right there. Our closest base is Guam. I mean, there's some in the Philippines and that, but
also do not forget a division sitting in South Korea.
But that's as close. That's the closest they are.
Yeah, but if they're going to come in there, they're going to start the other side to tie them
that's
down.
true too. But for us, we're going to be at the end of our rope trying to supply, our carriers and all. It's going to be an air and naval war there. There'll be land on Taiwan itself, but the majority of the fighting is going to be air and naval, and it's not like we're 100 miles off our coast. It'd be a hell of a lot easier for us to fight 100 miles off the North Carolina coast with our Navy than literally 6,000 miles away.
Absolutely correct.
So we got our hands tied there, and then I'm sure the ships that are there are fully armed now, but how fast does an Aegis cruiser get rid of its 96 missiles? 10 seconds?
Depends what's coming at
And
them.
then what's coming after that?
Yeah, and we need to actually go into this. Maybe the next time we'll talk about
Yeah.
U.S. status as far as equipment is concerned, and what the size of our
like
navies
it.
are compared to other things. Because there's a lot of information out there about that.
We could do another 5-hour show.
Today.
But unfortunately, we're running out of time, Bill.
Yes, but so these people can find out where to find us. Where would you tell them?
Well, for now, we're on YouTube and TikTok. Someone's been stirring it up there. We are on Twitter, X, and we're also on Rumble.
That's Rumble, not Grumple.
Probably the best places to follow us that I think we're safe in saying will still be there in the long term are Rumble and X Twitter, or whatever the hell it's called. But for now, we're on YouTube and on... I'm just blanked completely.
X? No, you said Twitter and Rumble.
Twitter, Rumble, YouTube.
Spotify.
Spotify, thank you. There's another one. So, go follow us over there.
Yeah, and
give us likes.
Give us a
shares,
like and
all that fun stuff.
follow us, which is always a good thing to happen. And
if you want to make my day and you think we're full of shit, tell us that, because I just love having conversations with those that
He
don't
can't
agree
be
with
full
us.
of it because his eyes are brown. He's at least a quart low.
Oh, my eyes
His
are-
eyes are blue.
my
He's at
eyes
least a
are
quart
hazel.
low, so don't worry about it.
All right. On that note, wrap it up.
Sir, we'll see you here in the next segment, and thanks for listening to Reclaiming America. Dan, good show.
Bye.